Hello and welcome to the Nutrition Digest podcast. We are your hosts and registered dietitians, Alicia Kugler, Tara Valenti, and Summer Merrick Williams, here to dish up the nutrition tea, dispel the myths, inspire, inform, and hopefully entertain. Today, we're keeping it casual and sharing some stories from our own journeys. More specifically, we're discussing mistakes we've made along the way, bad advice we've been given, and what we would do differently knowing what we know now.
So we actually had an entirely different episode planned for today, but unfortunately, we weren't happy with how it turned out. We had a lot of good stuff, but we wanted to make sure we were putting our best foot forward and really providing some awesome advice and not something that would be, less than perfect for you guys. Not saying that we're perfect, but we strive to be the best we can. So to kick it off, I'm going to start with my biggest red flag or mistake I've made along my journey. And it's something that I've done multiple times. Unfortunately, it's very common. This happened, especially when I was performing in Cirque du Soleil, and that was a severe calorie restriction. Now, I know a lot of people do it. I see it in my practice every day, where people are just cutting calories in order to lose weight or drop pounds or whatever. But it really just doesn't serve us long term. So my story was basically when I was in Cirque du Soleil, I was performing 10 shows a week plus training and doing loads of other stuff along the way. And I was only consuming 1,300 calories a day. Yeah. So I was constantly logging my food. I was tracking on MyFitnessPal. I weighed in all the time. And subsequently, I had my own napping couch. Now, I know I mentioned that in previous episodes, but I literally napped every single day before the show. And I would sometimes nap in between shows. And if I didn't, I was napping before I would go to work. And a result of that was I still have to nap every day. I think I've actually had some kind of long-term effect with how my body regulates itself in the constant need for sleep. So what I did want to share with that is some of the risks that are associated with constant and consistent underfueling in both sport or performance. So whether you're a professional or competitive athlete or not, just even if you're training, some of the cons and potential risk factors that are associated with it. So starting with when you're training, some of the biggest risk factors are performance risks. So things like decreased energy availability. So you just won't have as much fuel in your tank to give 100%. That was me every day. I was having to sleep all the time. Reduced strength and power. So you're just not going to be able to put as much into it or have as much performance capabilities. You're not going to lift as heavy, run as fast. You will take longer to recover. And also you can have decreased coordination and focus. It happens a lot. If you're constantly underfueling, you may really struggle with keeping your focus during your sport. You could even be so underfueled that you could get dizzy. You could really have some big risks associated with that. In terms of both health and physiological risks, they're very similar for both athletes and non-athletes. And that's increased, like I said, increased risk of injury or poor bone health. Also, it can disrupt your hormones, compromise your immune system. So if you find that you're not eating a lot and you're getting sick a lot, that could be why. And also, long-term risks for athletes is something called REDS, which is relative energy deficiency in sport. And that's a syndrome that induces impaired bone health, reduced muscle mass, cardiovascular dysfunction, and physiological or psychological effects. Like I mentioned, you can have bone density loss and an increase of mental health impact. For those of us who are not athletes and are maybe more sedentary, again, like I said, low energy and fatigue, you can have poor concentration and mood changes. You could be more irritable. If anybody's ever gotten hangry, I have. It happens a lot. Irritability, anxiety, mood swings, those are all common when you're not eating enough food. And also in long term, you could have slowed metabolism, nutrient deficiencies, because you could be getting a lack of minerals, vitamins, and protein that can affect your hair, your skin, your nails, and organs. So if you're finding that you have brittle hair or your nails are brittle, that can be a sign of a deficiency. And also reduced quality of life. So you may find that you don't enjoy hobbies as much, relationships, social activities, because you're always fatigued. Now, that's a lot of all of the negatives, but what can we do, right? And what did I do is I finally learned a little bit about nutrition. I realized I was totally underfueling. So I made sure to eat regularly. I aim for 3 meals a day, plus 1 to 3 snacks, depending. So my body is constantly having some sort of fuel. And I'm not going too long with that between eating. I made sure to try, doesn't happen all the time, but I try to have a balanced plate. So I have carbs for energy, protein for my muscle repair, healthy fats, and colorful fruits and vegetables for micro and macronutrients. Also, I know this is still scary for a lot of people, but don't skip carbs. Carbs are our main source of energy, and it's especially important if you're active. How else are you going to fuel, right? And then prioritize recovery nutrition. So I made sure to eat on my days off. I made sure to have protein and carbs. I made sure to I was eating a balanced meal after I was done with shows. And also making sure to hydrate. So if I was super sweaty, making sure to get those electrolytes and getting fuel in, and making sure I didn't go too long without drinking water. And a good rule of thumb with that, again, is check your pee. It's not sexy, but it's a good way to see if you're hydrated or not. So that's what I did. That was my biggest red flag. Don't underfuel.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
I mean, that's such a huge problem. It's so relatable actually right now, because I, of course, live in this world like you guys do, where we're super focused on our nutrition all the time, but we can still make mistakes because sometimes your appetite doesn't line up with your needs. Mm-hmm. Like recently, my training cycle has been getting more and more intense. And I noticed that I've been feeling just super low energy, like on my runs and stuff, just not feeling like I should and like I want to feel. Mm-hmm. And I had to kind of go back to the drawing board and be like, well, maybe I need to eat more food, even though I'm not hungry. And I checked in with my coach, because sometimes it's better to just have an extra set of eyes on things. And I was like, look, these are the numbers that I'm hitting. How does this look? What is your advice? What do you think? Do you think I'm underfueling, or should I change my routine up? What should I do? Because I don't know, I feel like that's what coaches are for, even though we know what we're doing, it's so nice to have someone else look at your numbers for you, because my body wasn't asking me for more food. And she was like, you are definitely underfueling.
So did you listen to her? Did you end up eating more, even though you weren't hungry?
Yeah. So, and that's the struggle that I've been on this week is okay, I probably need to eat 350 extra calories a day, and on top of what I was currently consuming. And it's kind of hard. I feel full. I'm not that hungry. So sometimes I think we get into our heads about well, I don't feel hungry, so I shouldn't eat.
100%.
Especially in sports where there's this fear that if you are gaining weight or if you have extra body fat, that maybe your performance is going to be affected. But that fear is just totally backwards.
But I find that it's hard too. And I still go back to the old school mindset. I know a lot of my clients do as well, is as soon as I'm not liking where I'm at, I put on those extra pounds, or I'm not feeling hungry. I really do. It's really hard to fight against that. I know a lot of people feel the same way, but it's if I'm not hungry, I don't want to force myself to eat. Right. And so how do you, how are you able to tell if it's that you actually just are underfueling and you need to eat, or you don't need to eat the extra calories? And that's a tough one to learn as well.
Well, and it's a lot of understanding your body and spending some time and being mindful and being true to yourself. Because sometimes it's eating more, but sometimes it's eating more intentionally. Because I know for me, when I first got into endurance sports and triathlons, it was such a big shift because I was coming from a bodybuilding and like weightlifting background. And for me, I all of a sudden got like really, really hungry and I wasn't eating enough around my training sessions specifically. And then away from my training, I was gorging myself. I wanted all the baked goods, all the food. And I wouldn't have appetite right away, but then a few hours later, it would like take over and it would lead to these crazy sessions of me eating. And it wasn't even like, and it was intentionally, it was just, I was really hungry because I wasn't eating enough around my training session or during my training session. And I think for a lot of like specifically female athletes, but even males too, like, I think it's that fear of having the carbs during and around that I think for a lot of people, they need to learn about and like learn about those symptoms of like, hey, you're tired, you're hitting a wall, your heart rate's really high, you're feeling sluggish, you feel like you're not recovering well. And I know I still struggle with that all the time. I know. Yeah. And like even kind of getting into like phases of your cycle and times that you might need a little bit more carbs, or like if you're getting ready for an event, your volume will ramp up. You probably need to ramp up your food accordingly as well, which a lot of people don't recognize. They think they can just keep their food the same when they're getting ready for an event.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I work on with some of the people that I work with as they train for events. Like most people are under fueling, period. Like it's like, and it's funny because I understand because I know how hard it is. But most people are under fueling. And then as your training cycle increases in intensity, like mine is right now, that's where we have to be super mindful and make those adjustments and be like, I don't feel great. What can I change in order to improve and make myself feel better? And I find that I talk about this all the time when I'm talking to runners, especially female runners. I find that they have this tendency to want to function on the minimal amount possible. Like they're going to take the fewest number of gels they can get by on their runs and like just kind of skate by. And it's like, that is the backwards way of doing it. And if you actually start to fuel appropriately, the difference that you feel in your performance is amazing.
Right. So here's a question for you. And I'm sure that other people would have it as well. And obviously you guys know that I'm training for the 10K and you guys are also doing the run with me. So at what point would you guys say in a training for a 10K, so 6.2 miles, that you should ramp up the fuel? How do you know?
So that's a really good question. My first thought is that you're already relatively active, right? Like you teach spin class and you work out and you're like relatively active. So if your runs are just being replaced, like you're replacing other activity with running now, you might be able to maintain for a little while.
Right.
But generally speaking, and like Alicia, chime in whenever you feel, but generally speaking, I look at like the duration of your actual run. So if you're running for 60 minutes or longer, that's when we start looking at, okay, we might need to increase fuel and potentially fuel during your runs.
Right. Right.
The rest of it is more like supporting the activity pre and post. So just making sure that you're getting the right type of fuel before your run, carbs, and then the right type of fuel after your run, which is going to be carbs and protein. And then focusing on nutrient density and like total calories overall to kind of like match. And part of it is going by how you feel. So for like a 10K, it really kind of depends on how long your training sessions are as to how we would plug in the extra nutrients.
Right. Yeah. And that's how I've done it. And that's what I did also when I was training for my half marathon. It was the same thing. Once I got over 45 minutes, or if I knew my sessions were going to be over an hour, at least, then that's when I incorporated having a gel at 45 minutes and using that and making sure I had hydration and stuff with me. But yeah, thanks for the tip.
Yeah. The other thing I will add to that, though, is just intensity matters too. So like if you're zone 2 chilling, like not going hard, just kind of like, you know, getting your chill runs in, you're not going to need quite as much fuel for those as those high intensity, like maybe speed sessions, for example, or sessions where you're kind of like going up into the higher level zones.
And I see your Strava, Summer. I know that you're doing some intervals. I can see that you're doing them. So maybe time to evaluate.
It's a good point, but I don't know how often I'm going above the zone 2, because zone 2 to me feels about like zone 25. So, I struggle a little bit, but we're doing it. We're doing it.
That matters. It's funny that we're talking about carbs, because the worst piece of advice that I've ever received for nutrition was when I was doing bodybuilding. And I know I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but so I competed in bodybuilding, for people that don't know, from 2015 to 2018. So when I was finishing my master's into the beginning, getting into my practice. And I had one particular prep in 2016, I believe. So fresh grad, trusting my coach. I didn't know much. The nutrition world sees bodybuilding as this gray area, and they don't want to touch it. So there's a lot of coaches out there, but at the point in time, 2015, 2016, there wasn't a lot of evidence-based bodybuilding information at all. So she was very bro science, the coach. And I was put on an all protein and veg diet for one of the preps because my body wasn't responding. So it was 5 to 6 meals a day of it had to be steamed or boiled whitefish and a cup of green vegetables, no fats, no carbs. And
Sounds
this
disgusting.
is actually, it was totally disgusting. I was allowed to use spices and lemon juice for my seasoning. I had to be very controlled about the amount of sodium I was using too. And this, you want to know what's horrifying, is that I still see a lot of clients coming in and that have gone through bodybuilding and had this. This is not a thing that has gone extinct. It still exists. And it's really common for fat loss strategies for those brides that are getting ready for their wedding day, or people that are
for the wedding.
I know, it's horrible. And it makes me cringe whenever I deal with a client like that. And if you actually think about now I'm looking back and understanding what I understand about sports nutrition, it's so backwards, because the whole concept of bodybuilding is you're trying to maximize your muscle, minimize your body fat. So by not giving myself carbs, I'm not able to actually push my cardio to help with output. I'm not able to lift heavy weights. I remember being really, really weak in the gym. My body has to actually break down muscle protein for energy because there was no glycogen stores available, or my body has to work harder to create glycogen from protein, which is a very strenuous process for the body. So you have less endurance, it's harder to recover, the risk of losing muscle is way, way higher, and you might actually have weird stuff go on hormonally. And looking back, I was diagnosed with my thyroid autoimmune. Yes, I have other autoimmunes which put me at risk for it, but I was diagnosed after I got out of the bodybuilding world. And it was my last prep that I started to show symptoms of hypothyroidism and things like that, which was in 2018. And just looking back, it's well, how much of that did I actually give to myself? Which that's a whole other guilt trip that I could go down myself anyways. But there's so much misinformation. And if I were to kind of go back to 2015, 2016, Alicia, and be listen, carbs are your friend, especially in the bodybuilding world, not just in the endurance world. Yes, keep your protein high. You still need higher protein amounts. You don't need to be going over 1 gram per pound. Looking back, I was trying to calculate the other day just out of shits and giggles. I was how much protein was I actually eating? I was probably eating 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. I was eating upwards of over 200 grams of protein a day. And that was actually low in comparison to some of my friends that were doing bodybuilding at the time that were also having protein shakes on top of it. And if I were to go back in time and kind of look at it, be don't get rid of the carbs, be intentional about your carbs, space them throughout the day. Maybe earlier in the prep, you're being more generous with it. Maybe, you taper down a little bit as you go, but you're not getting rid of them completely. And you're still timing them around the workout. So you have that fuel and you're able to train, because that's the whole purpose of it. Hindsight is 2020. It always is. And so it's funny that we've gone talking on carbs in that sense of oh my God, what did I do to myself?
Okay. So on the note of carbs, my mistake that I made nutrition wise back in the day, before I knew what the heck I was doing, was when I was in my early 20s, I think I was maybe 21, 22, I decided I'm going to go vegetarian. This is what I read a book on it, and I was super inspired. And I was okay, I'm going to try to minimize the amount of animal products that I consume for a lot of different reasons. And part of the reasons that I did that, or some of the reasons that I did that, I still like they still hold true. The like food systems and the issues with that in our country are pretty messed up. And that was part of the reason why I did it. Part of it was like a health reason. I actually did a food journal as a part of a nutrition class that I was taking. And I realized that most of the fat that I was consuming was saturated fat. And I was like, well, saturated fat comes from animals. If I reduce my intake of animal products, then my saturated fat intake will go down, and that'll be better for my heart health and my cardiovascular system and all this. So I was like well-intentioned, right? But I also was in my early 20s. I barely knew how to cook. I didn't know anything about nutrition despite being in my very first nutrition class. And I pretty much did vegetarianism all wrong. Like I consumed basically bread and cheese. Like that's quesadillas. I think I lived on quesadillas and like grilled cheese sandwiches. And when you go out to eat at a restaurant and you're trying not to eat meat, a lot of times the vegetarian option isn't the healthier option. It's just like the really cheesy option. And so I ended up gaining a bunch of weight, being super low energy, not feeling very good, and probably missing out on a ton of nutrients that I could have been getting had I been a little bit more strategic about the way that I was executing my plant-based diet. Plant-based back then was not a term. It was just vegetarian.
You're vegetarian or vegan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
So I was dating a guy back then, and his mom, I think she did this on purpose to get on my nerves, but she would always call me a vegan.
What?
You're a vegan.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, okay, first of all, I'm not a vegan. And also, why do you say it like that?
Where are you from?
I actually had like a really good high school friend that was in a similar situation, that she was like vegetarian because of like she wanted to eat healthier and like animal, like she had a lot of like animal treatment kind of methodologies about her. Mm-hmm. And so she would eat at the cafeteria at school. And so think it's a small town, very rural. The cafeteria's vegetarian options was this little salad that was like brown and slimy.
Ew.
Or it was French fries or curly fries. So she ate French fries and curly fries every single day. And she had candy bars. And like, I just remember years of her having this as the diet. And then it's funny because yeah, it's just like talking to her years later. She's like, yeah, that wasn't smart. It's just like, it's one of those things that you don't think about.
Yeah, you don't. And I see it in, I mean, I was a vegetarian for 10 years. And as I learned more and like got an education in nutrition and stuff, my diet morphed and changed so much. And I was able to actually optimize it really well with a little bit of strategy and knowledge. But I see a lot of clients that come in and they're vegan or vegetarian, all of the different versions of vegetarian. And oftentimes the problem is more that they're leaning on processed foods a little bit too much, especially if they're concerned about protein intake, which everybody is right now. So they're getting a lot of their protein from processed foods, which that's fine in moderation. I don't think that there's anything wrong with consuming like a Beyond Burger here and there. But if you're eating like that hyper processed food at every single meal for the sake of being plant-based, we're kind of like losing the point here.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, because the point is to eat from the earth, not eat animals, not eat animal products. So eating cookies and whatever isn't exactly solving that health or hitting that health goal. It's just omitting animal protein or animal products, right?
I learned from a client that Oreos are vegan.
That's what I've heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
if you're in Canada, McDonald's French fries are vegan, but not in the US.
Oh.
Fun fact of the day.
Yeah.
Do they taste different?
I don't know. They're gluten-free in Canada, but they're not gluten-free in the US.
Okay, we're going to need to do a comparison test. So when you go home, you need to have French fries, McDonald's French fries, and then come back, have them here, and then compare for us. Because I thought they always taste, it's like McDonald's foods everywhere taste the same, like Subway.
Yeah.
It always smells the same and always tastes the same.
I think Subway is unanimous. It's always the same. But I feel like because I'm going to have to do it for science sake, I'm just going to come with a Ziploc bag to the airport with my Canadian French fries. And I'll just show up at your doorstep and be like, here, compare.
You're not going to eat it?
I can't eat the American ones, so I can't compare it to the American
Oh,
ones.
that's a good point.
Reza,
Shoot.
have Reza do it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. He's my
Done.
victim.
I feel like, Alicia, you had another
Yeah.
one that you were
Oh
talking
yeah, tell
about.
us.
Yeah. So this is one that like, it's kind of funny that we're talking about vegetarianism because I feel like the other extreme of vegetarian that I've seen, but it's not as common, is that they just eat fruits and vegetables, like more like the raw vegans of the world or the plantitarians. Like that's a thing. They just eat. Not that I was ever that, but I feel like I dabbled with like, I'm going to eat a tons of fruits and vegetables at every single meal. And I know like my
How are your
significant
guts?
my significant other in the other room has to limit my vegetable consumption. And I still sometimes do this to this day because I know better. So this is an ongoing mistake that I'm working through. It's overeating on vegetables because I genuinely really enjoy a big salad. I love big stir fries. I love just having like a plant-centered meal. But because of having IBS and having a lot of digestive issues, and also just having pretty high energy needs from training and from when I do personal training and I'm on the go, they're not always the best thing for me, and they make my stomach hurt if I overdo it. And I think a lot of people have it, they think that it's like, oh, vegetables are good, you should have more. And like to some degree, yes, for most of us, we're not getting enough. But I do see a subset that are of people that are kind of similar to me. And I wasn't listening to my body. And sometimes I don't listen to my body because we're all humans and like we try to be better, but it was giving me a signal. And for some individuals, especially if you have IBS, like too many vegetables is too much fiber. And depending on the types of vegetables, like the gastric content and the volume there can really affect kind of the speed of digestion and affect kind of the enteric nervous system, as well as like depending on what the vegetables are, the FODMAPs in it can cause some fun fermentation and some fun gas. And so I've definitely learned like, I know I need to be careful about the quantity that I'm eating. And I know that I need to focus a little bit more on cooked vegetables and things like that, which I think a lot of people think is the opposite of what they should be doing. And I will even tell some of my clients to eat more vegetables. And it's funny because I feel like I should almost be sharing with all my clients. Like, yes, I'm telling you to eat more vegetables. I should give you the vegetables that I want to consume every day. And then we'll be even.
Yeah.
That is so funny that you said that. I literally talked to someone this morning who shared the exact same symptoms, but doesn't have IBS. She loves fresh fruit and vegetables. Like if I could have half of my clients eat half of the vegetables and fruit that she eats, we'd all be a much healthier population. But what was so interesting is she is just being such a rock star. Her food has been on point, but what she decided to do was start limiting some of the other carbs that she was eating. So she was eating fewer whole grains, less rice and pasta, less breads, tortillas, all of that stuff. But subsequently, what happened was all of a sudden she started getting this really sour, sore gut and having a lot of digestive issues all of a sudden. And to your point, was eating every day this awesome raw spinach salad, which she loved, filled to the brim with beautiful stuff and with a balsamic vinaigrette. So she was getting a lot of acid in there without any other kind of carbs and just really starting to suffer. So we spoke about the exact same thing today about cooking some of the vegetables more, adding some of those grains back into the diet, adding more rice, adding more pasta. And again, mindful of portion sizes for sure, but super important. So there is too much of a really good thing too.
Yeah, 100%. And that's like, especially for myself and some of the other clients that I work with, I find that one of the strategies to help tolerate vegetables better is to make sure you're pairing it with a carb. Like I think we always talk about like pair your carbs with protein sources. Well, it's like for some people that have issues with like a lot of raw vegetables, pairing it with a good carb source to help with the digestion can really be helpful.
Yeah.
Tara, have you ever had it where you've had like a big salad or some veggies before a big run or something like that? You've had to deal with the consequences?
Ooh, no, I think like I don't know. I feel like I guess like eating like high fiber bread has been a problem for me actually. So I try to run mostly in the morning, but the world isn't a perfect place. And so sometimes I have to run in the afternoons, and I don't like doing that because I've eaten a bunch of stuff already that day. And depending on what I had, sometimes I don't feel great. But if I eat something that is like higher in fiber, and sometimes it's like you just have no choice and that's just what you have to eat. And you're like, well, I got to eat something and I also have to run later. And this is just what it is. But I've had like, sometimes I'll do like a PB&J with higher fiber bread. And it's just like a rock in my stomach. Like I just feel terrible. Like the whole time I'm like, ugh, I feel like I'm running with rocks in my gut. And that sucks. So, and that's kind of one of the things that it's like endurance running 101, like don't eat fiber before you run because it will make you feel that way. And I think all it takes is like doing it once or twice and you're like, oh, I should not do this. But it's definitely a dose response thing for me. I have like GI issues as it is. And so I usually go with gels that are formulated for people with a sensitive tummy and stuff. I've kind of figured out what works best for me. But yeah, I've also noticed that there's just certain foods that I cannot eat. And oats are one of them. They
really
just destroy my gut.
Yeah, I remember one of the first conversations that I had with you when I first started at our workplace, like you were telling me, you're like, I think oats are not my friend. And then like we were talking about my reaction because everything in the US that's gluten-free is oat-based. And we were kind of like, I remember this conversation. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So in future in Nashville, so the three of us are going to Nashville for the dietetic conference next month. So when we're having breakfast, we're all going to be having to eat our own thing.
Well, I hope the hotel has breakfast included. That's what I'm coming for. I want a continental breakfast.
We got an Airbnb.
Yeah, that's not going to happen, honey.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sad.
Are you not coming now?
The conference is going to have so much food.
Okay, good.
Yeah. We're going to get so many free samples. Well, I think that's great. I hope you guys all enjoyed this episode on our own nutrition journey and some of the things that we've done maybe less than ideally that has not resulted in great performance or good results. And I hope that, if you guys can relate to any of this, give us a comment, tell us all how you feel, maybe share it with a friend. We really like to hear from you guys, let us know.
And a reminder that we're humans too. So I think sometimes we put healthcare providers and like dietitians on a pedestal and influencers online that we see them and they're like, they have it all figured out. No, we're just like you. We're trying to figure out our own nutrition. We're trying to figure out our own fitness journey and our own health. So that's what path we're on.
Random question. Quick name, most unhealthy or naughty food or fun food that you have on hand in your fridge right now.
I mean, I have some salted caramel Talenti gelato in my fridge right now.
That one's so good. I tried it for
really
the first
good.
time last week. Oh my God. And the pistachio one.
Yeah. Alicia, what about you?
I've got Reese's peanut butter cups and I have hickory sticks. You guys don't know what those are because you're not Canadian.
What are hickory sticks?
Hickory sticks are a beautiful potato chip creation from Canada. That these little tiny potato sticks that are taste like potato chips, but they're addicting.
Can you bring us some?
Yeah, okay. I'll bring you some.
Can you bring some maple candies too? Those are so good.
The soft ones or the hard ones?
The ones that melt in your mouth.
Yeah, the soft ones. Okay.
Okay. Mine is a friend of mine and I went to the grocery store yesterday and we had a really long day. And so we stocked in the dessert section for a really long time. So I have a massive piece of Tres Leches cake in my fridge right now.
That sounds really good.
It's going to get it tonight.
We know what Summer's doing after this.
Oh, I'm getting into that ice cream tonight.
Oh, heck yeah.
I'm going straight for the Reese's. I hope everyone knows that.
All right. Well, just to wrap it up, thank you all for joining us today on our much more casual Nutrition Digest podcast. We hope that sharing some of our mistakes, mishaps, and odd things that we've done in the past has helped you in some kind of way. Follow us, share with a friend, and
subscribe.
Catch you next time.
See ya.